From the kitchen of the cabin, it's the 5 Games for Doomsday review.
The Shores of Tripoli. We meander through gaming. Gaming is this huge park, and we start at one end and then meander through the many paths that go through it. I started my stroll down the paths that were most familiar to me, things like The Resistance, Coup, One Night Werewolf, games that fed my strengths, my ability to bullshit and yell. Then I thought I'd explore those paths that were most populated. I reasoned that there must be something there to see. And there was. There was brilliant engineering and polished mechanisms. There was Trajan and Carcassonne and Puerto Rico. No wonder these paths were so crowded. I knew that I would spend a long time here because there was just so much to experience. It took me a long time to venture off into those paths that weren't really paved, that had been tramped into the grass by the people who felt that they just had to take them. Over there was 18XX. I took that one first, and it's really not as scary as first impressions would have you believe. It took me forever to take the path with the battered olive green sign, though. A path that I thought was incredibly difficult to follow. This was the path marked War Games. I started to follow the people that had veered off the heavy Eurogames path down this particular rake and found that it was fascinating. I still haven't gone so far down the path, but part of the reason I've been able to go down it at all is that they've broadened the entrance, making it easier to enter. There has been a shift in gaming recently. It seems that war games are gaining a wider audience. And this is in no small part down to companies that are making games that veer away from minuscule verisimilitude and use that wonderful abstraction that games deploy to deliver us theme. Fort Circle Games seems to be one of those companies. The Shores of Tripoli is an asymmetrical 2-player game in which you will either take control of the nascent American Navy in their fight against the pirates of the Barbary Coast, or vice versa. The Americans, in typical fashion, are pushing for regime change, and the pirates simply want to nick all of the Americans' money. Every round is led by the Americans, who can play a card for its event, move their ships, or build a gunboat. The pirates can also leverage events and build ships, but can also embark on a raid on American merchant shipping. There are a lot of reasons that you should give this game a go. Firstly, the victory conditions incentivize the players to do the risky but interesting things. There is no greater way to deflate a table when repeating the same dull conversion is the only sensible way to win the game. This is not the case here. The pirates are nimble and impulsive, striking out from the first turn, and there is so much fun to be had in rolling those dice and taking those coins from the whiny American player. The Americans are more deliberative, building up, waiting for that one great Hail Mary at the end of the game, and all along that journey you're being nibbled at. Of course, you have to take account of the other player too, and the events on the board pull you towards a tactical response rather than your overall strategy, and this tension is built into the game for both factions. This game has pulled off the difficult feat of making the events feel hugely powerful. Each and every one of them. There is that joy of drawing a hand of cards and seeing the potential destruction wrought by every card in your hand. So much about a good game is the anticipation of a well-played turn, and the events in this game deliver that potential every time. Also, the events feel significant, as they should in an historical game. You don't feel that the events of this conflict have been glossed over, but treated with the mechanical reverence they deserve. Combat in the Shores of Tripoli is fantastic. It is ruthlessly simple and doesn't bog the game down at all. You roll the number of dice you've been allocated, and if you hit a 6, you hit. Combine that with events that will give you a load more dice, and combat here is actually fun, rather than a slog that you have to get through to draw the game to a conclusion. Bear in mind that it seems far more difficult for the Americans to achieve a victory, though. While you're playing the game, it feels balanced, but there certainly feels like there is a discrepancy in crossing the finishing line. For the pirates, it's simple. Take 12 gold. For the Americans, there is a laundry list of requirements. I've yet to play a game of this where the Americans have actually won. There seems to be a handicap in favour of the pirates. This makes the job of playing the Americans a more deliberative task. The path to victory is more obscured. As a result, playing the American side requires a lot more player agency. Saying that though, I've played games where it was down to a single dice roll, and there is never a sense of the pirates running away with it. The game always feels tense and is always very enjoyable, but I think it takes a player of real skill to steer the Americans to victory, and I am not that. The Shores of Tripoli is a really entertaining game though. The design is clean and tight and very easy to grasp. The next time you take a trip to the Ludological Park, walk down one of the smaller paths, because there's a chance you'll discover something you'll love. And if you take a step down the wargame path, you could do a lot worse than starting with the Shores of Tripoli. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this, you can leave a comment in the comments box, and if you've really enjoyed it, you can support the show at patreon.com/5G4D.
Oi! Oi! Oh, it's much too bright up here. Stay there, I'll be down in a second. So, do you want flip-flops, t-shirts, hoodies? Well, you can go to sirmeeple.com and you can buy everything in the world, because everything in the world is there for you. sirmeeple.com.